What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom now less than 2 months away, people are combing the internet currently looking for any bits of information, little details they can find for the title. Well, it appears we did get some new information, this coming from Nintendo and the producer on the game, and we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a game that leaked out a bit early, and it's for a series that I did not think would be making a return from the Nintendo 64 days, and we'll also be talking about The Last of Us, specifically the show and Season 2, and how I'm sure it's going to cause quite the reaction. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit that like button, helps that a ton, and if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below, and we're going to start today with a game that's actually out today, and that's Tchia, as we did get reviews dropping yesterday, which we can see this posted up over on Metacritic, currently sitting at a 79, that's on 22 critic reviews. Taking a look at the split, 15 positive and 7 mixed. At the top, we have PSX Brazil, that with a 90. There's the Gaming Bible at a 90. All the way at the bottom, you have Game Spew at a 60. And the reviews, for the most part, are good enough, I would say, for a title like this. It's not some massive AAA title, nothing like that. But I think from what I've seen with some of the reviews on it, it looks like it could be a lot of fun, more of a laid-back title. But when they were showing off some of the gameplay in different reviews, it did have, yes, the Breath of the Wild kind of direction to it, where it is an open world. It has sort of that color palette and kind of cel-shaded visual style. And yes, the glider. Whenever you see a glider now, you immediately just think of Breath of the Wild, just kind of how it is. But it is going into PlayStation Plus right away. So if you have that PlayStation Plus extra or premium tier, you should be able to just download it starting today when it goes live this afternoon. Also, tomorrow we will see downloadable content released for free for Sonic Frontiers. And we can see a list of it here. This was posted up by Tails channel. Makes it a bit easier to put up here on screen. Sights, sounds, and speed. Photo mode, so you can pause, take screenshots, free to move camera, all of this. And generally it'll also sort of kick up the visuals a bit. They have jukebox mode that has 13 tracks from your favorite Sonic songs. Check this out, though. So they do apparently have Crush 40 returning, and that's with Open Your Heart and Live and Learn. So that's got to be exciting for fans of the series going back to Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, and then also challenge mode, so you can fight multiple bosses against the clock in Battle Rush, or speed through cyberspace and time attack action in Cyberspace Challenge. Remember, they have an entire roadmap that'll be going basically for the rest of this year, so certainly a lot of cool stuff to look forward to here for Sonic fans, but make sure you check out that downloadable content tomorrow. It'll be free. Oh, and if you were someone who's been playing a ton of Elden Ring since it released, Bandai decided to put out some infographics going over different ways people have died and even some of the more popular bosses, which this over on their website, and you can see right at the top here the top 5 boss attempts. Well, you can probably guess number 1 with Melania, and that obviously being the boss. It's essentially at the end of the game that everyone was talking about and trying to beat. And one person decided that they would just beat the boss over and over and over again to help people out. So it's pretty cool just to kind of see the list of bosses with the most attempts, but then also causes of death, which you figure by another player might be higher than that, but it was only 2%. Otherwise, fall to death was 14%. And then status effects, 15%. And then enemies and NPCs, 69%. So just some fun little bits of information here, especially for big-time Elden Ring fans, and obviously they are now on the path to that expansion that will release at some point, so why not put out some more information just to let everyone know that 14% of people died falling off of a cliff. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, a game that is still shrouded in mystery. While we have seen glimpses of the game throughout different trailers in Nintendo Directs, still not 100% sure what's going on in the game. We've even had this entire art book leak out, and while we have gathered more information from it, still a lot of questions here, and maybe that's just part of Nintendo's marketing strategy. It's just not say much at all, really. But we're getting closer to what I assume is going to be a big Tears of the Kingdom Direct, a dedicated one, along with hardware for that special edition Nintendo Switch, and figure it's coming up soon, right? Since we're less than 2 months away. Anyway, we did at least get some small bits of information, and this had to do with Famitsu and kind of a game award show that they had where they would give out awards for Game of the Year for last year and all this, as well as most anticipated title for 2023, and you guessed it, Tears of the Kingdom won that, and in fact, Mr. Aonuma had some words in the speech that actually correlated, of course, to Tears of the Kingdom. We can see this posted up over on Nintendo Every, and yes, we do have to go through Google Translate for this, so some of it might sound a bit weird, and I do get a bit hesitant when it comes down to having to use Google Translate to understand some of these words, especially with nuance. However, there have been a lot of translations online that were made, and this seems pretty, I would say, pretty on point here for the most part. Now, this was held on March 18th. Mr. Aonuma commented while accepting the award, saying, "The entire development team is very happy to receive such a wonderful award. In the previous game, Breath of the Wild, you're able to experience the new world of Zelda where you are free to go wherever you want and do whatever you want. However, in the sequel, Tears of the Kingdom, the free ideas of the players are packed with new play that will bring changes to the game world. I think that you will be able to feel a fresh surprise, so I hope you can enjoy the unknown Hyrule as you please. Thank you very much." Now, the anticipation around this game is pretty obvious, as many people have even shared pre-order charts where it's easily topping Breath of the Wild, and I would kind of expect that considering there are significantly more Switch systems out there now than when Breath of the Wild was coming out. It'd actually be weird if this wasn't tracking well above Breath of the Wild. I don't know if it'll be able to outsell Breath of the Wild, just because for the rest of the Switch generation, obviously there's not as much time left, but I mean, we figure the next system will be backwards compatible, so maybe this game, Tears of the Kingdom, will just run throughout most of the new platform from Nintendo its life, as well as downloadable content, expansions. Trust me, Nintendo probably has that expansion pass ready to roll ahead of release so they can show it off and try to sell it before the $70 game is out. Anyway, taking a look at this, though, talking about the exploration of Breath of the Wild being the big aha moment, right? But now, talking about how your decisions and ideas will work to shape the world around you. And I think it's very interesting to consider that, since there have been speculation around things like time travel in the game, maybe doing things in the world, obviously in the past, affect things in the future. We've also seen what appear to be, people made jokes, the Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts, kind of build your own vehicle and drive around. That could affect things, or even Link just being able to pass through different elements in the game, as they showed him just kind of going through solid objects. And that would, I feel like, provide a pretty big aha moment with Breath of the Wild, where they just opened everything up to you, but now, while everything's opened up to you, you can also do all kinds of stuff to shape that world in front of you. Again, a lot of mystery with this title, the unknown Hyrule. So I'm hoping we find out more soon, but hey, either way, we're gonna be playing this game in 2 months, so exciting stuff. Definitely looking forward to it releasing in May. Next up, let's talk about a game that leaked out early that we sort of heard about last year. There was a report from VGC that mentioned that, like, the Lego licensing, and that was sort of up in there, and then 2K came in and made a deal to create games for it, and it's been a lot of stuff happening in the background, but now it appears we're going to see some results from this partnership, as one game in particular got out there online through screenshots, and I'm just waiting for a full video to get posted at this point. But 2K and Take-Two, as we've mentioned in the past, they're very vigilant when it comes to this stuff with takedown notices, so while screenshots have been circulating, they have been getting pulled down through way of copyright strikes, so I can't actually show you any pictures of this, but Lego Racers. Do you remember this game from the Nintendo 64? I actually really liked it back then. You'd be able to build your little car and drive around, and it sort of had those Mario Kart power-ups from what I remember. Again, it was a long time ago. It was Lego Racers, Mario Kart, and Beetle Adventure Racing. Hey, if you want to do that again with a follow-up, I'd be all for that too. But Lego Racers, well, we can see this over on Insider Gaming, where they say a new rumor by Xbox Era's Nick has suggested that a new Lego racing game called Lego 2K Drive is in development. Now, Insider Gaming was at least able to corroborate this and say that it's currently undergoing playtesting, which makes sense that you're starting to see a lot of screenshots just appear online if people are indeed playing this game right now. But My question with this game, because I think there's potential here, it's been described as more or less following the same model as Mario Kart, it just being an arcade kart racing title where you have power-ups that you pick up and throw around and do all kinds of stuff to other players to knock them out of the way. You figure with Legos and racing, kind of this arcade setup, it make a ton of sense to have as, unfortunately, a free-to-play game. I hope that's not the way that they are trending here with this. I'd like to see this come out as just a regular $60 or even $70 game, but it's feature complete, and there's a lot of stuff to do in it, which would involve even building your own racer, maybe from parts that you unlock as you play. I mean, really, LEGO Racers was a lot of fun back then, and I know Mario Kart is the racing game that most people remember from the Nintendo 64, but LEGO Racer at least had its own, I don't know, feel to it, and it did kind of follow that similar path of Mario Kart where you had power-ups and different things with this arcade racing setup. So I would like to see it sort of make this return, and it sounds like this game is set to be coming out later on this year. So I'm actually interested in the idea of a LEGO racing game returning, provided they pull it off correctly, because from what we've seen with a lot of these larger companies, the pull of having that free-to-play game with the battle pass and the microtransactions ends up being too great, and they decided to do that over just making a regular game. So here's hoping they decide we're just gonna make a title here that's 60 or 70 bucks and we'll sell it and see how it does. At the very least, I'm sure there'll be plenty of downloadable content, because think about all the brands that might get involved here to give you different intellectual properties and things that add into building your own race car around all different forms of media. So there's a lot of potential here. I'm hoping that they're able to live up to it, but I guess we'll see later on this year. Hey, maybe it's a good E3 reveal around that time. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft and their plans to launch their own mobile app store. Now, if you have a phone, it's Android, iPhone, right? Those are probably the two out there right now that most of us have. And that means you're either using the iOS store, their app store, or you're using Google Play. And that's kind of it, right? Well, the big thing right now that's going on with regulators is actually opening that up so that other companies can just have app stores available on Android and iOS. For example, we can see this posted up by Eurogamer. They say in March 2024, new rules are expected under the EU's Digital Markets Act, which will require Apple and Google to open their mobile platforms to app stores owned and operated by other companies. In fact, Microsoft is going to be taking advantage of this, and apparently a lot of this has to do with them trying to get Activision Blizzard so that they can utilize some of their mobile properties, whether it's Candy Crush or Call of Duty Mobile, that would play in to them having a Microsoft store, maybe even just an Xbox store. Also, think of their ability to be able to tie in game streaming with Game Pass to that, because I know with Apple and iOS, they had to do some weird stuff where they did this workaround so it would launch in a web browser, and it was very strange. It wasn't that intuitive there, and that had to do with Apple being unsure of how they would be able to more or less take a cut of microtransactions that were being bought through that app that was then being on the App Store. I think they were kind of concerned they would open that up to other companies being able to do the same things. It was a whole thing there. But if Microsoft is able to have just their own app store that maybe is the Xbox logo, then they can do all the game streaming they want through that and sell a bunch more people Game Pass. And I'm sure on the developer side, they would prefer this as well, since there would be competition there when it comes to the cut that's being taken from them, rather than have one company, Apple or Google, tell them how much they owe every time a purchase is made. So I'm curious to see if this is something Microsoft is able to accomplish, because I also think we might end up being in a world of launchers on our phones. Think about how on PC we see the Epic Game Store, EA has a launcher, what Ubisoft did, and so on. Are we gonna get to that point with our phones where we just have an entire screen saved for all these different app stores? You gotta go between them and buy different games and apps. I don't know, maybe that would be a bit of a backfire for that future, but I am curious to see what Microsoft's able to come up with for their own app store, provided all of this goes through in 2024. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about The Last of Us show. All right, so the season finale has happened, season 1's in the books, and we already heard that there was going to be a season 2, and immediately people go, okay, Season 2, The Last of Us Part 2, what happened in The Last of Us Part 2 that was so controversial, had the internet literally on fire as this game was out? Well, let's take a look here. We can see this posted up by Neil Druckmann saying no Last of Us on HBO tonight, but Season 2 is already on its way. Endure and survive. And yeah, you can see the hammer. You can see Abby's arm there. This is going to be an interesting one. And you know what? I am curious just to kind of see, one, if they still go the same route as Last of Us Part 2, which I'm not necessarily going to spoil here for people who haven't played it, because I feel like there are more and more people now looking towards the series after Season 1 has aired who weren't interested in it before. So there are probably people buying Last of Us Part 2 just to see what happens, and I'm sure they're going to be very shocked. But maybe they alter some of it for the show, and if not, I'm curious to see how people who aren't really into the gaming sphere, the gaming side of things, see it. Because I could see kind of the mainstream audience, yes, being shocked by some of the events, but also if they're mostly watching a lot of these shows on Netflix or HBO or others, there tend to be some pretty shocking twists and turns just because some of these shows don't last more than a season or two, so they tend to try to do some pretty wild stuff to keep viewership up. So maybe they just see it as like, okay, this is a big time twist. This is interesting. Let's see what happens next, as opposed to basically the war that went on the internet after the first couple of hours of Last of Us Part 2. But we'll see. I believe it was mentioned that some people think it's going to be out by early 2025. So we're still couple years off, obviously, but it's gonna be an interesting time online when those first couple of episodes air. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, would you be interested in a new Lego racing game modeled similar to Mario Kart? 58% say no, 42% say yes. You know what, that's not too bad considering I'm asking this sight unseen. There are probably many people who are watching this who just now found out that, oh, there's a Lego racing game that's been leaked out and we're expecting it later this year. And we haven't seen gameplay, official gameplay, I should say, or anything like that. We don't know the scope of this game. Will it be a full career mode? Is it going to be mostly geared towards online multiplayer? Is it a free-to-play game, or is it going to be a regular price game? So there's a lot of unknowns here, but I wouldn't mind seeing a more modern take on Lego Racers from the Nintendo 64, so I'm at least interested. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from SCJ saying, AI-generated dialogue is the first place my mind went when hearing about new dialogue technology in Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. I can see them having the actors do a ton of recordings of different words, speaking in different tones, and then using AI. The game creates unique responses to everything happening in the game, so you never get the same response twice. I'm also curious because I do know with how AI has been progressing at almost a scary level at this point, that you can do AI generated voices and things if you have a big enough sample size. Could they get to that point to where you have AI that's able to essentially have new words created consistently and you don't really hear the same phrases or sentences being used all the time throughout a 20 or 30 hour playthrough? Because they also have it connected online to where if you're playing and it's Tuesday, they'll be talking and mentioning that it's Tuesday or something like that, even current events. I think there's a lot that can still be done when it comes to these open worlds and making them feel current and alive. And I'm wondering if that's kind of the direction they're pushing in here with AI. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and Mr. Aonuma's comments. What do you think the big aha moment's going to be for Tears of the Kingdom? Similar to what we had with Breath of the Wild when that entire world just kind of opened up to us. And then also a new Lego racing game for 2023. Are you interested in what would you like to see from that with 2K taking the helm? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.